Yuna was having tea when the world changed. She was sitting in the diplomatic lounge of the Galactic Council building. The windows showed the stars, beautiful and peaceful. She was talking with the ambassador from Valoran about trade agreements. Boring work, safe work. The kind of work she had done for 5 years. Then every screen in the building turned red. The Valoran ambassador stopped talking mid-sentence. Her blue skin went pale. She stared at the wall screen with her mouth open. Yuna turned to look. The message was there. In every language, repeating over and over, warning. Nakama species identified. The death world has been found. Yuna did not understand. She had never heard the word Nakama before, but the Valoran ambassador understood. She stood up so fast that her chair fell over. She backed away from Yuna like Yuna was suddenly dangerous. "You," the ambassador whispered, "you are the death world species." "I do not know what that means," Yuna said. She stood up slowly, carefully. The ambassador looked ready to run. "Please tell me what is happening." But the Valoran was already running. She left her things. She left her tea still steaming on the table. She ran for the door like the room was on fire. Yuna looked around. The lounge was emptying fast. Every alien diplomat was leaving. Some walked quickly, some ran. None of them looked at her. It was like she had become invisible, or worse than invisible, like she had become something they could not bear to see. Her communicator buzzed. It was Ambassador Taeyang. His face on the screen looked worried. "Yuna, get to the council chamber now," he said. "We have a situation. A big one." "What is Nakama?" she asked. "What is a death world species?" Taeyang closed his eyes for a moment. "I will explain when you get here. Just hurry, and Yuna, be careful. Some species are already evacuating their people. Things are going to get chaotic." The communication ended. Yuna grabbed her things and headed for the council chamber. The corridors were crowded. Security officers were everywhere. Alien diplomats pushed past her. Some were crying. Some were shouting into communicators. The building that had always been calm and quiet was now loud and frightened. She reached the council chamber. The doors were open. Inside was chaos. The council chamber was a huge round room. There were seats for representatives from 500 species. Usually the room was orderly. Representatives sat in their assigned places. They spoke one at a time. They followed the rules. Not today. Today the chamber was a disaster. Representatives were shouting. Some were leaving. Some were demanding answers. The Kirath delegation, the bird-like people from the northern spiral, were packing their things. Their leader was yelling into a communicator about sealing their borders. The Vex, the silicon-based species that looked like walking crystals, were already gone. Their seats were empty. They had not even stayed to explain. Yuna found Taeyang near the human section. He was talking with Commander Donghyun from Earth's diplomatic fleet. The commander looked angry and confused. "Someone needs to tell me what is happening," Donghyun was saying. "Why are people evacuating? Why are they afraid of us?" Taeyang saw Yuna and waved her over. "Yuna, good. Maybe you can help explain this to the commander." "I am not doing a good job." "I do not understand it either," Yuna said. "What is a death world species?" Before Taeyang could answer, a voice boomed across the chamber. It was Kristar, the eldest council member. Kristar was a being made of living crystal. She was older than anyone else in the room. She had been on the council for 300 years. Yuna had never heard her raise her voice before. "Everyone sit down," Kristar commanded. "Sit down now. We will discuss this calmly." Slowly the room quieted. Representatives returned to their seats. But many seats stayed empty. Many species had already left. Kristar stood at the center of the chamber. Her crystal body caught the light and threw rainbows across the room. But her face, if you could call it a face, looked sad. And scared. "We have received a warning from the ancient systems," Kristar said. Her voice was clear but tired. "An elder warning. The oldest kind. The kind that has not been activated in millions of years." "What does it say?" Someone shouted from the back. "It says that Earth is a Nakama world," Kristar said, "and that humanity is a Nakama species." The room erupted again. Yuna heard fear in the voices, but she still did not understand why. "Silence," Kristar said. The room obeyed. "I will explain. But you must listen. All of you. Especially the humans. You need to understand what you are." Yuna sat down. Taeyang and Donghyun sat beside her. Everyone waited. Kristar began to speak. She told them about the primordial tongue, the language that came before all languages, the language that did not just describe things but defined them, named them in ways that could not be changed. She told them that Nakama was not just a word. It was a classification, a warning. It meant a world where death ruled but could not win, a world where extinction came again and again, but life found a way to survive, to adapt, to become stronger. Most worlds are kind to life, Kristar said. They have stable climates, few disasters. Life grows slowly and peacefully. But some worlds are different. Some worlds try to kill everything on them: volcanoes, ice ages, asteroid strikes, mass extinctions, over and over. Most life cannot survive that. Most species die. She paused. The room was very quiet. But on a Nakama world, life does not die. Kristar continued. It survives. And the things that survive become something new, something dangerous. They become persistence hunters. They become apex species. They learn to never give up, never surrender, never accept death as final. Yuna felt cold. She looked at her hands. Normal human hands. But suddenly they felt different. Dangerous. The galaxy has encountered 3 Nakama species before, Kristar said. Each time we welcomed them. We thought they were just another species, just another civilization. We were wrong. What happened? Dongyun asked. His voice was quiet, but everyone heard him. Kristar looked directly at him. They spread, she said. Not through war, not through violence. They spread through simple existence, through being better at survival than anyone else, through never stopping, never resting. Within a few centuries, each Nakama species had changed the galaxy completely. The old order was gone. The old civilizations were absorbed, not destroyed, just changed, made into something new, something with the Nakama at the center. The chamber was silent. Yuna could hear her own breathing. Too fast. Too loud. And now you are saying humans are like that? Taeyang asked. The elders said so, Kristar replied. And the elders were never wrong. They built the warning system for a reason. To alert us when another Nakama species appeared. So we could prepare. So we could decide what to do. What can we do? Someone asked. Kristar's light dimmed. I do not know, she admitted. The humans are already everywhere. They have diplomatic ties with dozens of species, trade agreements with hundreds, cultural exchanges throughout the galaxy. We cannot isolate them now. We cannot contain them. It is already too late, and too late for what? Yuna asked. She was afraid of the answer, but she needed to know. Kristar looked at her with ancient eyes, eyes that had seen civilizations rise and fall, eyes that had watched the galaxy turn for 3 centuries. Too late to stay the same. Kristar said softly. The Death World species is here. The Nakama have arrived, and whether through friendship or simple persistence, they will change everything. They always do. The only question is whether we will survive the change. Yuna looked around the chamber, at the empty seats, at the frightened faces, at her fellow humans who were just beginning to understand what they were, what they had always been. The galaxy had found Earth's true name. And now everyone was afraid, not of what humans had done, but of what they would inevitably do. Just by being themselves, just by surviving, just by never giving up, the Death World was here, and nothing would ever be the same again. Hana sat in the cold metal chair and stared at the screen in front of her. The blue light from the display made her eyes hurt, but she could not look away. She had been working at the Galactic Archive Station for 3 years now. Her job was simple. She translated old texts from dead civilizations. Most days were boring. She would find words about farming or building or family life. Nothing exciting ever happened, but today was different. The tablet on her screen was very old. The exploration team had found it in the ruins of the Elder civilization. The Elders were gone now. They had been gone for millions of years. But they were the first. They were the ones who had traveled the stars before anyone else. Their cities were dust now. Their ships were broken metal floating in space. But sometimes people found their things. This tablet was one of those things. Hana had been working on it for 2 weeks. The symbols were difficult. The Elder language was not like modern languages. It was deeper, more complex. The translation computer struggled with it. But Hana was good at her job. She was patient. She worked through each symbol slowly and carefully. Then she saw it, the symbol cluster that made her blood turn cold. The tablet was listing planets. It was some kind of catalog or warning system. Each planet had a name in the Elder language. The computer translated most of them easily. There was Valoran, which meant green place. There was Zinthera, which meant crystal sky. Normal names for normal planets. Then came a planet that every species in the galaxy knew. A small blue world with lots of water. The humans called it Earth. The Kirath called it Blue Pearl. The Vex called it Water Garden. Everyone had a nice name for it because it was a pretty planet. Peaceful, friendly, but the Elders did not call it any of those names. The symbol cluster was clear. The translation was perfect. The computer did not make mistakes with the universal linguistic matrix. When Hana saw what it said, she felt sick. The Elder word was Nakama. In the primordial tongue, the language that came before all other languages, Nakama had a very specific meaning. It was not a simple word. It carried layers of information. The computer showed her all of them. The unconquered death world. The place where death cannot win. The planet that refuses to die. Hana read it 3 times. She checked the symbols again. She ran the translation program twice more. The answer was always the same. Her hands started to shake. She needed to tell someone. This was important. This was dangerous. She reached for her communicator but stopped. Who should she call first? Her supervisor? The station commander? The Galactic Council? Before she could decide, the door to her office opened. Minho walked in. He was another linguist. They had worked together many times. He was carrying a cup of hot tea and smiling. The smile disappeared when he saw her face. "What is wrong?" he asked. He set the tea down and came closer. "You look like you saw a ghost." Hana pointed at the screen. She could not speak. Her throat felt tight. Minho leaned over and looked at the display. She watched his face change. First confusion. Then understanding. Then fear. "No," he whispered. "That cannot be right. Check it again." "I checked it 3 times, Hana said. Her voice sounded strange. "Too high, too scared." "The computer is sure. The translation is correct." Minho grabbed the chair next to her and sat down hard. He ran the translation program himself. Then again. Then a 3rd time. Each time the answer was the same. Nakama. The unconquered death world. "We need to call Ambassador Taeyang," Minho said. "Right now." "This is above our level," Hana nodded. She reached for the communicator again. Her fingers still shook as she entered the code for the Galactic Council. The signal connected. The screen showed the ambassador's assistant. "I need to speak with Ambassador Taeyang," Hana said. "It is urgent." "Very urgent." The assistant looked annoyed. "The ambassador is in a meeting. You will have to wait or leave a message." "No," Hana said. Her voice was stronger now. "You do not understand. This cannot wait. Tell the ambassador that we found an Elder catalog. Tell him we found Earth's true name." The assistant's face changed. "Wait," she said. The screen went blank. Hana and Minho waited. The office was very quiet. Hana could hear her own heartbeat. It was too fast. Too loud. Then something happened that had never happened before in all her years at the station. The alarm started to sound. It was not the fire alarm. It was not the emergency evacuation alarm. It was something else. Something older. The sound was deep and wrong. It made Hana's bones hurt. Red lights flashed in the corridor outside. The computer screens around the office all changed. They showed the same symbol. An Elder symbol. One that Hana had only seen in history books. It was the symbol for danger. For warning. For things that should not be disturbed. "What did we do?" Minho asked. His voice was small, scared. Hana looked at her main screen. The translation program was still running. But now it was doing something new. It was sending data. Broadcasting. She tried to stop it. The keyboard would not respond. The computer had locked her out. "The system is sending the translation," she said. "To everywhere. To every station. Every planet. Every ship. Can you stop it?" Minho asked. "No, this is automatic. This is part of the Elder systems. I think we triggered something. Some kind of old warning system." The screen changed again. Now it showed text in multiple languages. Thousands of them. Every language that was connected to the galactic network. The message was the same in all of them. Warning, Nakama. Species identified. The death world has been found. All civilizations are advised to prepare. This is not a drill. This is not an error. The unconquered death world exists. Humanity is Nakama. The message repeated, over and over, broadcasting to the entire galaxy. Hana and Minho sat in the flashing red light and watched the message spread. They had found something that was meant to stay hidden. They had spoken a name that should not be spoken. And now everyone knew. The door burst open. Station security rushed in. They looked frightened. Behind them came the station commander. Her face was pale. What did you do? She demanded. What did you translate? Hana pointed at the screen. The commander looked. Her eyes went wide. She stepped back like the screen might hurt her. Get Ambassador Taiyang, she said to one of the security officers. Get him now. And tell him to prepare. Tell him the galaxy is about to panic. The officer ran. The commander looked at Hana and Minho. She looked very old suddenly. Very tired. Do you know what you found? She asked quietly. Earth's true name, Hana said. The commander shook her head. No, you found the truth. The elders knew. They always knew. They knew what Earth was, what humans are, and they tried to warn us. They built this warning system millions of years ago. They put it in their language, in their archives, hoping that someone would find it before it was too late. Too late for what? Minho asked. The commander looked at the screen again, at the word Nakama, at the warning that was spreading across the galaxy like fire. Too late to stay separate, she said. Too late to keep them isolated. Too late to prevent what comes next. The Death World species is here, and nothing will ever be the same. Jiho had always loved history. He studied the past. He read old records. He spent his days in the archives learning about civilizations that no longer existed. It was peaceful work, safe work. The past could not hurt you. But today the past was very much alive, and it was terrifying. 3 days had passed since the warning broadcast. 3 days since the galaxy learned that Earth was a death world. 3 days since everything changed. The Galactic Council had given Jiho a special clearance. They wanted him to research the primordial archives, to find information about the other Nakama species, to learn what had happened to them, to learn what would happen to humanity. The primordial archives were old, very old. They were sealed in a vault deep beneath the council building. Jiho had heard of them but never seen them. Most historians never got access. The information was considered too dangerous, too sensitive. But now the council was desperate. They needed to understand. They needed to know what was coming. Jiho stood in front of the vault door. It was massive, made of metal that did not exist anymore. Metal from the time of the elders. A security officer opened the door with a special key. The door swung open slowly. The air that came out was cold and smelled like dust and time. You have 6 hours, the officer said. That is all the council approved. Read what you can. Report back. Jiho nodded and went inside. The door closed behind him with a sound like thunder. The archive was one large room. The walls were covered with data storage units. Millions of them. Each one contained information from the time before the current galaxy. From when the elders still ruled. From when everything was different. Jiho found the terminal in the center of the room. It was old but still worked. He entered his search query. Nakama, Death World species. Previous encounters. The terminal thought for a moment. Then files appeared on the screen. 3 main files. 1 for each previous Nakama species. Jiho opened the first file. It was labeled Karash, the first Death World. The file contained detailed records, maps, population data, cultural studies. Jiho began to read. The more he read, the more his hands started to shake. Karash was a world of constant disasters, earthquakes, floods, volcanic eruptions. The planet seemed to want everything on it dead. But life survived. It evolved in strange ways. The dominant species, called the Karashi, developed something unique. They could share consciousness across their entire ecosystem. When one Karashi learned something, all Karashi knew it. When one died, its memories spread to the others. They were individuals, but also one collective mind. Death could not stop them because knowledge never died with them. The primordial collective found them 10,000 years ago. The records showed first contact. The Karashi seemed peaceful, friendly. They wanted to learn. They wanted to join the galaxy. The collective welcomed them. That was the mistake. The Karashi spread slowly at first. They settled on a few worlds. They traded. They shared culture. Everything seemed normal. But then something strange began to happen. Other species started to think like Karashi, not through force, not through control, just through contact, through conversation, through friendship. The Karashi way of thinking was more efficient, more connected, more survival-focused. Species that spent time with Karashi adopted their patterns. Their children grew up with Karashi values. Within 3 generations, the distinction between Karashi and non-Karashi began to blur. Within 5 generations, it disappeared completely. The records showed the end result. The primordial collective still existed, but it was not the same. Everyone thought like Karashi now. The old cultures were gone, not destroyed, just absorbed, changed into something new, something that carried the Death World's mark. Jiho closed the first file. He felt sick, but he had to keep reading. He opened the second file. Then, the second Death World. Then was different from Karash. It was a world of predators. Everything on Then hunted. Everything was prey. The dominant species, the Theni, evolved to be the ultimate hunters. They could track anything across impossible distances. They used quantum entanglement to follow their prey through space itself. When the Theni joined the galaxy, they seemed useful. Helpful even. They became explorers, scouts. They found new worlds, new resources. They never stopped searching, never stopped moving. It was in their nature. But the Theni did not just explore. They changed the places they went. Not intentionally, just by being there. Their persistence, their refusal to accept failure. It infected other species, made them more driven, more focused, more like Theni. The records showed the transformation. Within 200 years, the galaxy had changed. Trade increased. Exploration exploded. Colonization spread to dangerous regions that had been avoided before. The Theni made everyone braver, or more reckless, depending on how you looked at it. The old peaceful galaxy was gone. The new galaxy never stopped moving, never stopped growing. It could not. The Death World hunters had changed what it meant to be alive in space. Jiho saved the second file and opened the third. Vorox, the third Death World. This one was the most recent. Only 5,000 years ago, Vorox was a world of cooperation. Life there could not survive alone. The environment was too harsh, too unpredictable. Species evolved to work together, to form bonds across different types of life. The Voroxi were the result. They were not one species, but many working as one. A Voroxi city was not built by one species. It was built by 10 species all working together. Each had a role. Each was necessary. They thought of themselves as one civilization, even though they were biologically different. When they joined the galaxy, they brought their cooperation with them. They formed alliances. They built connections. They made friends easily. Other species liked working with Voroxi. Problems got solved faster. Projects finished quicker. Everyone benefited, but the Voroxi way of doing things spread. Other species started forming multi-species alliances, started building shared cities, started thinking of cooperation as the default. The old way of doing things, where each species stayed separate, began to seem strange, inefficient. Within 1,000 years, the galaxy was completely integrated. Species still existed as individuals, but they worked together in ways that would have been unthinkable before. The Voroxi had not conquered anyone. They had just made cooperation so obviously better that everyone chose it. Jiho finished reading the 3 files. He sat back in his chair. His heart was beating too fast. The pattern was clear. The Death World species never attacked. They never forced change. They just existed. And their existence changed everything around them. He thought about humanity, about what humans were like. They were social. They made friends easily. They adapted to new situations. They solved problems creatively. They never gave up. They spread to every environment. They thrived in conditions that killed others. How long would it take? How long before human ways of thinking became normal? Before human culture spread everywhere? Before the galaxy could not imagine existing without humans at the center? The records had one final section. Jiho almost did not want to read it, but he had to. The council needed to know everything. The section was labeled Final Observations. It was written by the last elder before their civilization ended. The text was short, direct, written in the primordial tongue so its meaning could not be misunderstood. Death World species cannot be stopped. They cannot be contained. They cannot be defeated. This is not because they are strong. It is because they are inevitable. Like water flowing downhill, like time moving forward, they represent the ultimate form of survival. And survival always wins in the end. The only question is whether you will fight the change or accept it. Fighting is futile. Acceptance is adaptation. We chose to fight. That is why we are gone. If another Death World species appears, remember this. Do not fight what cannot be stopped. Learn to swim in the new current, or drown fighting the tide. That was the end. The last words of the elders. A warning and a lesson written millions of years ago, waiting for someone to find it. Waiting for the next Death World species to appear. Jiho saved all the files to his personal device. The 6 hours were almost up. He stood and walked to the door. It opened. The security officer was waiting. Did you find what you needed? The officer asked. Jiho nodded slowly. Yes, he said. I found it. I found the truth. And I wish I had not. He walked back to the council chamber to give his report, to tell them what the past had shown him, to explain that humanity was not unique. 3 Death World species had come before, and all 3 had changed the galaxy forever. The only question now was whether this time would be different, or whether history would repeat itself one more time, whether the galaxy would resist or adapt, fight or accept. The Death World had arrived. The past had shown what came next, and the future was already beginning. Sungho was a military commander. He had spent 20 years protecting Earth's interests in space. He had faced pirates. He had negotiated with hostile species. He had seen combat. He thought he had seen everything. He was wrong. 2 weeks after the Death World revelation, Sungho was called to a classified briefing. Top secret, eyes only. The kind of meeting that meant trouble. He arrived at the military command station and was escorted to a secure room. Inside were officers from a dozen species. All of them looked worried. The briefing began immediately. A Kirath general stood at the front of the room. Her feathers were ruffled, a sign of stress in her species. We have analyzed human expansion patterns, the general said. The data is concerning. Very concerning. A screen lit up behind her. It showed a map of the galaxy. Red dots marked human settlements. Red lines showed human trade routes. There were so many. Sungho had not realized how far humanity had spread. In just 50 years since first contact, humans have established presence in 47 star systems, the general continued. You have trade agreements with 312 species. You have cultural exchange programs in over 1,000 locations. You are everywhere. Sungho raised his hand. Is that not good? We have been peaceful. We have followed all the rules. We have caused no conflicts. That is exactly the problem, a Vex officer said. His crystal body pulsed with nervous light. You are too good at integration, too good at making friends, too good at adapting. The screen changed. Now it showed graphs, statistics. Seongho tried to understand them. Humans thrive in environments that other species avoid, the Kirath general explained. High radiation zones, extreme temperatures, high gravity worlds, low gravity stations. You adapt within months. Your exploration vessels venture into hazard zones we have declared permanently off limits, not because you are reckless, but because you do not see them as limits. Another officer spoke up. This one was from a species Sungho did not recognize. When we offer you technology, you reverse engineer it within years. Then you improve it. Designs that have been static for centuries you make better. You cannot help yourselves. That is innovation, Sungho protested. That is progress. Why is that bad? Because it spreads, the Vex officer said. Other species see what you do. They start copying you, thinking like you. Your way becomes the standard. Within a generation, everyone is trying to be more like humans, more persistent, more adaptable, more driven. The screen changed again. This time it showed something that made Sungho's chest tight. It was a psychological study. It showed how species that spent time with humans began to change. Their children showed increased curiosity, increased risk-taking, increased refusal to accept failure. You form emotional bonds with other species within days, the general said. Bonds strong enough to inspire radical behavioral changes. We have documented this across 40 different species. Individuals who spend time with humans start acting more human. Not through any manipulation, just through friendship, through example. Sungho looked at the data. He could not deny it. He thought about his own crew. Half were non-human, and they did act more human after working with him. They took more risks. They questioned orders more. They never accepted no as a final answer. He had thought he was teaching them good habits. Maybe he was just making them more like Death World creatures. "What do you want us to do?" Seung-ho asked. "You brought me here for a reason. What is your plan?" The room went quiet. The officers looked at each other. Finally, the Kirath general spoke. "The Galactic Council is proposing quarantine," she said. "Seal human space. Restrict travel. Limit contact. Contain the spread before it is too late." Seung-ho stood up fast. His chair fell over behind him. "You cannot be serious. That is imprisonment. That is treating us like a disease." "You are a disease," the Vex officer said bluntly. "A cultural disease. An infectious pattern. You change everything you touch. Not through violence. Through simple existence. We have rights," Seung-ho said. His anger was hot now. Burning. "We have treaties, agreements. You cannot just lock us away." "We know," the general said quietly. "That is why the vote failed." Seung-ho stopped. "Failed?" "The quarantine proposal was voted down," the general explained. "Because it is already too late. You have diplomatic ties with 47 species. Those species voted against quarantine. They said it would violate established agreements. They defended you." She paused. Her feathers drooped. "Do you see? It has already begun. You made friends. Those friends are now protecting you, even knowing what you are, even understanding the risk. They cannot help themselves. You made them care about you. That is the Death World pattern. That is how it always starts." While the military held classified briefings, another human was taking a different approach. Sora was an activist. She believed in communication, in understanding, in building bridges between species. When she learned about the quarantine proposal, she organized a response. She contacted human communities across the galaxy. She reached out to allied species. She prepared a broadcast. The broadcast went live on every major network. Sora stood in front of the camera and spoke with passion, with honesty, with the kind of emotional directness that made humans different. "We did not choose to be from a death world," she said. "We did not choose to be Nakama. We are just trying to live, just trying to exist, just trying to be part of this galaxy that we have come to love." Her voice was steady, but her eyes were wet. "If we are dangerous, it is not because we want to be. It is because we survived. Because our planet tried to kill us again and again and we refused to die. Is that our fault? Should we be punished for refusing to give up?" The broadcast was watched by billions. Species across the galaxy saw it. They saw her emotion, her sincerity, her very human refusal to accept rejection, and they responded. Messages flooded the council. Species that had been neutral declared support for humanity. Species that had been afraid changed their minds. The cultural exchange programs continued. The trade agreements remained active. The friendships persisted. The Kirath general watched the broadcast from her office. She saw Sora's speech. She saw the response it generated. And she understood that the battle was already lost. You could not fight this. You could not contain it. The Death World species had arrived, and they were doing exactly what the records said they would do. They were making themselves indispensable, making themselves loved, making the idea of a galaxy without them seem wrong. The general sent a message to the council. Her recommendation was clear. Stop trying to contain humanity. Start learning to coexist with them. Because the alternative was fighting an enemy that did not fight back. That just kept existing, kept persisting, kept making friends until you realized you did not want them gone anymore. The council read her message. They called another session. Representatives argued for days. Some wanted to keep trying to limit human expansion. Others accepted that it was futile. The debate continued. But outside the council chamber, life went on. Humans kept exploring, kept trading, kept making friends. They did not wait for permission. They did not stop because others were afraid. They just kept being themselves. And slowly, gradually, inevitably, the galaxy changed around them. Seung-ho returned to his ship after the briefing. His crew greeted him, half human, half not, all of them working together, all of them friends. He looked at them and saw the future. This was how it happened. Not through conquest, not through force, just through people working together, caring about each other, refusing to let fear win. Maybe the Death World species was dangerous, but maybe dangerous was not the same as bad. Maybe change was not the same as destruction. Maybe the galaxy needed someone who refused to accept the word impossible. Or maybe he was just proving the Kirath general right. Maybe he was already infected with human thinking, unable to see the threat because he was part of it. Either way, it did not matter. The galaxy had found Earth's true name, and now it had to live with the consequences. The Death World was here, and the only choice was how to respond, fight the tide, or learn to swim. 10 years had passed since the galaxy learned Earth's true name. 10 years since the warning broadcast. 10 years since everything changed. Nari stood at the window of her office and looked out at the station. It was a new station, built after the revelation, built specifically to help different species work together, to help the galaxy adapt to its new reality. She was a mediator now. Her job was to ease tensions between humans and other species, to help everyone understand each other, to build bridges instead of walls. It was difficult work, important work, and it never ended. The station was busy today. It was always busy. Ships came and went constantly. Humans, Kirath, Vex, dozens of other species, all mixing, all working together. Some willingly, some reluctantly, but together nonetheless. The galaxy had split into 3 groups after the revelation. Nari thought of them as the 3 responses. First were the isolationists, species that chose to seal their borders completely. They wanted nothing to do with humans. They watched from afar, nervous, afraid, waiting to see what would happen. The Zephyr Union was the largest isolationist group. 23 species that had withdrawn from galactic society entirely. They still existed, still traded among themselves, but they refused all human contact. Nari understood their fear, but she also knew they were just delaying the inevitable. Isolation only worked if you could maintain it forever, and forever was a very long time. Second were the enthusiasts, species that embraced humanity completely. They welcomed human presence, human culture, human ways of thinking. Some did it out of genuine friendship. Others did it out of fear of being left behind. They wanted to be on the right side of history. The Lorathi were the most enthusiastic. They had adopted human education systems, human government structures, human art and music. Some Lorathi children spoke better English than their own language now. It worried Nari. Cultural exchange was good, but cultural replacement was something else. Third were the pragmatists, the largest group, species that accepted humanity, but tried to maintain their own identity. They worked with humans, traded with humans, made friends with humans, but they also remembered who they were, where they came from. They tried to find balance. This was Nari's group, the group she helped lead. The group that said coexistence did not mean becoming the same. It meant learning to be different together. Her communicator buzzed. It was Ambassador Taeyang. He wanted to meet. There was something important to discuss. Nari found him in the conference room. He looked tired. He always looked tired these days. Being Earth's primary ambassador to the galaxy was exhausting work. "We need to talk about the compact," Taeyang said without greeting. He projected a document onto the wall screen. "I have been working on this for 2 years. I think it is finally ready." Nari read the title, The Coexistence Compact, a framework for peaceful integration. "What is this?" she asked. "A treaty," Taeyang explained. "A formal agreement between humanity and the rest of the galaxy. It acknowledges what we are, what the elders called us, but it also establishes rules, boundaries, ways to coexist without one side overwhelming the other." Nari scrolled through the document. It was comprehensive, detailed. It covered everything from trade agreements to cultural exchange programs to limits on expansion rates. It was brilliant. "And it would never work, Taeyang," she said gently. "You cannot regulate humanity. You cannot put limits on what we are. We adapt, we grow, we spread, not because we want to conquer, but because that is what survival species do. It is in our nature, I know," he said. He looked even more tired now. "But we have to try. We have to show the galaxy that we are trying, that we understand their fears, that we want to be good neighbors, not an invasive species." Nari thought about it. He was right. Even if the compact failed to actually limit human expansion, it would show good faith. It would give other species hope, and hope was valuable. "Okay," she said. "Let me help you refine it. We can present it to the council next month. They worked together for hours, adjusting language, adding provisions, trying to create something that would satisfy both human nature and galactic fears. It was like trying to square a circle, but they tried anyway. Because that was what humans did. They tried the impossible and sometimes succeeded. While Nari and Taiyang worked on the political solution, life continued throughout the galaxy. And life was changing. Human innovations had spread everywhere. Medical technology that humans developed to treat radiation damage was now standard across 300 worlds. Engineering techniques that humans created for extreme environments were used in construction projects galaxy-wide. Human agricultural methods had ended food shortages on 17 planets. Human culture spread even faster than human technology. Human music filled concert halls on alien worlds. Audiences who could not even hear all the frequencies still came to feel the rhythm. Human cuisine became popular everywhere. Restaurants serving human food appeared in every major city. Some species could not eat human food safely, but they came anyway just to experience the atmosphere. Human art was displayed in galleries across the galaxy. The way humans saw the world, captured in paint and sculpture and digital media, fascinated other species. It was so emotional, so raw, so unafraid of showing vulnerability and strength together. Human entertainment was everywhere. Movies, books, games, all translated into hundreds of languages. Young aliens watched human stories and learned about persistence, about refusing to quit, about fighting for what you believed in even when the odds seemed impossible. The Kirath general who had warned about humans 10 years ago watched all this happen. She saw the change spreading. She saw her own children becoming fascinated with human culture. Her daughter wanted to learn English. Her son wanted to visit Earth. She had tried to warn everyone. She had tried to stop it. But you could not stop a tide. You could only learn to swim. Kristar, the ancient council member, sat in her chamber and reflected on the past decade. She had lived for 300 years. She had seen empires rise and fall. She thought she understood change, but this was different. This change was faster, more complete, more inevitable. She received a request for a meeting. It was from a human child, a 10-year-old girl who wanted to interview her for a school project about galactic history. The child's teacher was Kirath. The school was on a mixed colony world, a world where 5 species lived together as neighbors. Kristar accepted the meeting. The girl arrived with her Kirath classmate. The two were clearly best friends. They laughed together, finished each other's sentences, did not seem to notice they were from different species. Kristar answered their questions about the old days, about the galaxy before humans. They listened with wide eyes. For them, a galaxy without humans was just history, something from ancient times. They could not imagine it any other way. After they left, Kristar sat in silence for a long time. She thought about the elders, about their warning, about their advice to accept the change instead of fighting it. Maybe they were right. Maybe this was not an invasion. Maybe this was evolution. The galaxy evolving, growing, becoming something new, something that included humans at its heart. Was that bad? She did not know. She was too old to know. But the young ones, like the 2 children who had just left, they did not question it. For them, this was just normal. This was just how things were. Perhaps that was the answer. Perhaps the Deathworld species won not by conquering the present, but by becoming the future. By making the next generation unable to imagine a galaxy without them. The Coexistence Compact was approved by the Galactic Council 2 months later. It passed with overwhelming support. Every species wanted to show they were willing to work with humanity, willing to try coexistence. The compact established cultural exchange protocols, trade regulations, expansion guidelines. It was a good document. A fair document. It would not stop anything, but it made everyone feel better. And sometimes feeling better was enough. Nari attended the signing ceremony. She watched as Ambassador Taiyang signed for humanity. Watched as representatives from 200 species added their names. Watched as everyone pretended this changed something fundamental. But as she looked around the room, she saw the real change. Human security officers working alongside Kirath. Vex diplomats laughing at a joke a human told. Species that had been strangers 10 years ago now acting like old friends. The death world had arrived. The galaxy had panicked, and then life had gone on, because that was what life did. It adapted. It continued. It found a way. Maybe humans were dangerous. Maybe they would change the galaxy forever. But maybe change was not always bad. Maybe sometimes the Death World species brought life instead of death. Maybe persistence and refusal to quit were exactly what the galaxy needed. Nari did not know the answer. But she knew one thing. The future was already here, and it had humanity's fingerprints all over it. For better or worse, the galaxy would never be the same. The only question that remained was whether this was the end of one story or the beginning of another, whether humanity would prove the Elders right and transform the galaxy completely, or whether this time would be different. Whether the Death World species raised among the stars instead of in isolation would choose a different path. Time would tell. And humanity had all the time in the world.